Today on Motors, Chris gets started with our new Jeep project, showing you how to install a lift and off-road wheels and tires. In Rides, we introduce our new co-host, Alan Taylor. So buckle up and hold on tight, because Motors starts now.
Hey, welcome to Motors. Now I've got a brand spanking new Jeep in the shop today, and even though it's just a few weeks old, well, we're ready to rip this thing apart. Now this is a 2014 Jeep Wrangler Sahara Edition in flame red. Today we're going to show you how to install Metal Cloak's 3-inch suspension lift kit, along with Method race wheels wrapped with these 35-inch Atturo tires. Now once that's all done, I've got a new surprise for you guys. My new co-host, automotive industry expert, Alan Taylor. Of course, there's new products and viewer mail too. Well, we've got a lot to install, so let's get started. Now we're going to start our Jeep lift with the front end. Metal Cloak has everything that you need, including new shocks, coils, upper and lower control arms, a panhard bar, new brake lines, and a detachable sway bar extension. Now let's get our Jeep lifted up, get the wheels and tires off, and take off those factory sway bar end links. After removing the sway bar links, unbolt the bracket for the brake line to give it some wiggle room. Put a jack under the differential, loosen the track bar, and then smack it hard with a small sledgehammer. And I mean hard, or you're never going to get that thing off. Remove the front shocks using two 5/8 wrenches up top, and for the lower shock mounts, use a 3/4 inch socket and wrench. When lowering the axle to remove the springs, make sure to watch the tension on the brake lines and don't go too far with them. Remove the upper and lower control arms. You'll need 18 and 21 millimeter sockets and wrenches to pull these guys off. Well, now that we've got our stock parts off, let's compare them to the new parts that arrived with our Metal Cloak lift kit. Using the stock hardware, install the new upper and lower control arms. Place one of the provided bump stop discs on top of the spring perch and then mark the center spot, then drill a 1/2 inch hole at this location. Assemble the bump stops and then place the completed bump stop assembly inside the spring before installing. Then tighten it down once the spring has been installed. You're also going to need spring compressors to shorten these guys up prior to installation. Remove the front track bar and install the new one from Metal Cloak using the stock hardware. Then install the provided Old Man Emu shocks, also using the stock hardware. Reinstall your brake line bracket to the frame, followed by the quick disconnect pins for the sway bar end links and of course the adjustable end links themselves. You'll need a thin 9/16 box end wrench to keep the ball joint from turning while you tighten the nut with a 5/8 wrench. Finally, tighten everything back down to factory torque specs. The kit also comes with new brake lines, mainly because of the 3.5 inch lift and the extra travel our Jeep now has. We have to replace both the front and the rear brake lines. Now be sure to tidy everything up with some zip ties and don't go anywhere, because when we come back from our break, we're going to lift up the rear end.
It just never ends with you. I feel like if it's not one thing, it's another. Well, that ends today.
The Craftsman C3 line. One battery, more than 30 tools, and the power to tackle any job that stands in your way.
You're welcome.
The C3 line from Craftsman. Get the new, more powerful XCP battery. Now runs up to 4 times longer. Craftsman. Trust in your hands.
Well, now that we're done lifting up the front end, it's time for the back end with similar components from Metal Cloak. Now the one difference being this bracket for our track bar, which helps give us our correct suspension geometry. Now just like we did up front, the rear brake lines need to be extended with these replacements from Metal Cloak. And of course you're going to need to bleed your brakes when you're all done.
You can refer to one of our previous episodes of Motors to learn how to do just that. Remove the rear track bar and then the shocks. Just remember to put a jack under the rear axle before you remove that lower shock bolt. And just like we did up front, install the new Old Man Emu shocks in the rear using the stock hardware. The new rear track bar requires a bracket because of the lift, so install that, then the track bar itself. Now just like we did up front, here's all the stock parts sitting next to the new Metal Cloak parts for the rear. Next up, the rear control arms. Just replace the old ones using the stock hardware. We started with the upper control arm. The rear track bar requires that this bracket be installed using the provided spacer and hardware. Install the U-bolt, but just snug it down for now. Attach the track bar using the provided hex cap screw and washer. Tighten down using a 10mm hex key and 7/8 socket. Install the other end of the rear track bar and the new sway bar end links. The new springs go on next, and then you have to assemble the bump stop kit using all the provided hardware. Now if you need some extra help, you can always head on over to our website and find this episode, and then you can download all the installation instructions right there. Make your adjustments and tighten everything down. Now once complete, this is what it should look like. Now for more information on this kit or the many other suspension kits from Metal Cloak, just head on over to metalcloak.com. After putting our stock wheels and tires back on, the lift looks amazing, but those tires, well, they look a little bit funny now, don't you think? And that just won't do. So we turned to Method Race wheels and Atturo tires to give us the aggressive look that we're going for. This is the double standard machine street lock from Method Race wheels in matte black with a simulated machine beadlock ring. These 18x9 wheels come with a clear-coated matte finish and zinc-plated bolts on the ring. Check them out at methodracewheels.com. And this is a 35x12.5x18 Atturo Trailblade MT. It's a performance mud terrain tire designed to give you excellent traction with an aggressive style. For more information, check out atturo.com. And here's the final result of our new Metal Cloak lift with the Atturo tires and Method Race wheels. Now you might see a few other things already installed in these photos. Well, we're just foreshadowing the next few episodes, so stay tuned.
If it's your car, why not make it your interior? Visit catskin.com today to find out how. Catskin. Express, transform, drive.
And now I'd like to introduce my new co-host, Alan Taylor. You may have heard him on his radio show, which I'm also on, called The Drive, or seen him on TV, lending out his 35-year automotive expertise. Well, now he's got his own segment right here on Motors called Rides, and Alan will be covering some of the top automotive events in the world, test driving the latest cars, and interviewing celebrities. But before we get to all of that, let's get to know Alan a little bit more, beginning with what started it all, his enthusiasm for cars.
So the best thing for me about coming to Barrett-Jackson is always the memories. I get to relive my youth, all the fun times when things were a little bit simpler. Like this Volkswagen thing, I had one right in high school, and of course I didn't have an Acapulco edition like this. By the way, sold for $25,000, which was a bargain. I had a yellow thing, and it was a little bit, wonky, so I put big wheels and tires on it, and I went boondoggling with my friends with their Jeeps, and I stayed right up with them. Every one of these cars has a story, and it screams out to me as I walk past it. Let me show you a couple other ones. Well, here's another one that brings back a whole lot of memories for me. When I was still in high school, I got an FJ40, a Toyota Land Cruiser. I think mine was about a 70. This one's a 73. Beautiful restoration. Mine had that same old inline six-cylinder like they all do, 125 horsepower, couldn't get out of its own way. What I did is I put a 327 with a Muncie 4-speed, and we made that thing pop wheelies. Matter of fact, a friend and I were driving past a motocross course one time. We decided we're gonna go out and get this thing airborne, and that we did. And I don't know what these things weigh, but that's a lot of weight in the air. These things are unbelievable. They're like a billy goat. You can climb up the side of a tree. This is another one of my personal memories, and I want another one someday. So hopefully this jogs your memory a little bit to where you were when you were 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, the time when we were learning about cars the most. My 68 El Camino, I learned how to flame. I had just learned how to paint cars, so the next thing, of course, is customize them a little more. Flames, airbrushing, of course then changing engines and going from an automatic to a 4-speed. Those are all the stories that scream out to me when I walk by each one of these cars here at Barrett-Jackson. So I still get nightmares from this car, 66 Chevelle, my first muscle car. I remember when they said we got to pull your engine out because the engine's worn out, tired, and I thought, well, an old Chevelle isn't much of a muscle car, so let's make it one. So me and a couple of my friends pulled the engine out, and on the way back in, my friend had his hand on the back of the tail shaft housing of the transmission, and it fell and poked a hole right through his hand. When he came back from the hospital, he said, I'll tell you what, I'll be the eyes, you be the hand. And I put my first engine in. So as I look at this Chevelle for one last time, I remember this was also my first race. And it was funny because I got up to the light was red, it turned green, I smashed down the gas, backfired through the carburetor. The other guy tore off, there was a cop in the alley. He got the ticket, I sat there, restarted my car, kept on going. All these memories are what each one of these cars does to me as I walk through these aisles. They just explode in my head, and I'm 16 years old all over again.
Parts. Brought to you by Craftsman.
Sometimes you just need more torque. Now, it's easy to get when it comes to air tools, but when it comes to cordless tools, well, we now have the Craftsman 19.2 volt half-inch impact wrench. Now, this thing will remove your lugs like nobody's business and give you the extra torque when you need it the most. Now, its powerful variable speed motor will go from 0 to 3,000 RPM, and its impact mechanism will give you up to 300 foot-pounds of torque and up to 3,000 impacts per minute for those really tough jobs. Now, this new design has 3 LED lights built right into the head for better visibility. It includes Craftsman's latest lithium-ion XCP battery that delivers up to 4 times the runtime and up to 20% more torque than a regular battery pack. And yes, the battery charger is included. Now, we've been using this guy in our shop a lot lately and are beyond impressed with its capabilities, so I know you will be too when you pick one up. Now, for more information, visit the parts page at our website or head on over to craftsman.com. You take your Jeep off-road a lot, don't you? Well, here's the problem. As if road debris isn't bad enough on the streets, well, it's 100 times worse when you're off-roading. Those tiny rocks and other nasties can flip up at any time and cause you some significant damage to your paint. Now, what's the solution? Well, it's protection in the form of a front-end LeBras cover from Covercraft. The leather grain vinyl adds style and a custom look to any vehicle, not to mention full front-end protection. Now, if you're getting tired of chip paint, bugs, and road tar over the front of your ride, well, this is the solution that you've been looking for. Installation takes just 15 minutes or less, and the excellent instructions help guide you through the entire process. Now, your hood won't be on lockdown either, with its two-piece design that molds to the contour of your hood like a glove. Now, each LeBras is designed specifically for your ride, so even if you have fog lights or special air intake or other features, there's one waiting for you. Protect your vehicle from the unexpected with a LeBras custom front-end cover for your ride. Check out covercraft.com for more information. Now this episode is all about the Jeep Wrangler, but let's say you've got one of the very popular 87 to 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJs. Well, our friends at Flex-Lite have a direct bolt-in aluminum radiator electric fan combo kit just for you. Their aluminum radiator features T-channels, which offers 130% better heat transfer, a durable mounting system, 3 10-inch electric fans capable of moving 2,400 CFM of airflow, and the dual 5/8-inch all-aluminum radiator core is hand-welded right here in the U.S. Now next to it, I've got Flex-Lite's Direct Fit TransLife transmission oil cooler kit for the same vehicle that works great with the radiator fan combo. This provides additional cooling to protect your transmission using turbulators inside the tubes for superior heat transfer. Their tests show a 20-degree drop in transmission fluid temperature, which can double the life of your automatic transmission. For more information on Flex-Lite's radiator and electric fan combo kit, or the transmission cooler for the Jeep Cherokee and many other vehicles, just head on over to flexlite.com.
E3 Diamond Fire spark plugs are the most powerful spark plugs you can buy. They deliver a more complete fuel burn, more power, better economy, and reduced emissions. E3 Diamond Fire spark plugs at auto parts and lawn and garden stores everywhere.
And now Alan's back with an interview with Craig Jackson from Barrett-Jackson. That's right, the CEO of the greatest collector car auction in the world. So take it away, Alan.
Here we are once again, another Barrett-Jackson. I'm Alan Taylor with Craig Jackson himself.
How are you?
Craig, good to see you. Let's talk about the new Dodge Challenger Hellcat. Is this a collectible car right out of the box?
Oh, I would think so. Of course, I keep thinking this is going to end someday, and they can't make it any faster, any more horsepower.
I know.
And each manufacturer keeps topping them, and Dodge is at the top of the heap now. It's amazing the horsepower and the technology they put into this car.
Well, they take a big heavy car like this, because it is heavy. I mean, we're talking 3.5 seconds, 0 to 60. It's got the ability to dial in track versus sport versus just a nice, comfortable ride. So all this technology, and you put that with a muscle car and all that horsepower, and they work together in concert and make a dreamy machine that you know, 20 miles to the gallon on top of that. So I got to think this is the beginning of a new era of muscle cars, wouldn't you think?
Yes, the muscle car battles again are back, the war. The ZR1 and the Shelby and the Challenger, one keeps trying to up the other. It's the 60s with technology again.
Right. This really is good at the end of the day for the values of all the cars that we have, because these are collectors right out of the box. You're talking about collections, you've got a big one coming up in January of 15.
Well, it's going to be a huge year for us, selling the Ron Pratt collection.
Tell the world about that for those who don't know.
Well, Ron has been a fixture at Barrett-Jackson for years, buying many of the star cars.
Right.
And we'll be reselling many of those star cars. A lot of the cars that Ron bought, Ron is very meticulous. He went through a lot of them, and whenever I walk in the museum and look at his cars, everything is perfect. He is that kind of attention to detail. He started collecting automobilia way before he started collecting cars. And he's 1,500 pieces of automobilia.
Wow. January 2015, the Ron Pratt collection being sold at Barrett-Jackson, Scottsdale.
That's right. We're going to start on the 10th and end on the 18th. It's a long week this year.
Wow. What kind of cars are in that collection?
A little bit of everything. He really focused on what he liked. Shelby's. He bought a lot of Carroll's personal cars, bought his personal convertible, bought his first race car, bought the Super Snake, his personal supercharged Cobra.
Right.
He had a lot of cars done by Boyd Coddington. He bought many of the iconic cars, Shazoom, a lot of the cars from American Hot Rod, cars he commissioned himself. Right. The Future Liner, he's donating the Future Liner to the Armed Forces Foundation.
Wow.
He's a Vietnam veteran himself.
Yeah.
He cares very much about the veterans, and with the whole thing that's going on with the Veterans Administration that started in Phoenix and then unraveled nationwide, he wants to help his fellow veterans.
That's awesome.
So we will have the largest television audience in our history this January.
Wow. Well, mark your calendars. This will be a big special year, and the Ron Pratt collection are going to be also selling everything?
Everything.
Everything.
That Friday, we're going to have an open house. The last time the museum's intact, that night, we start taking it apart and moving it all to Westworld.
Well, it's going to be awesome. Thanks for hanging with us, man.
Thank you.
Barrett-Jackson, the world's greatest collector car auction and exhibition, and the biggest one I think you're ever going to have, coming up in January 2015. We'll see you there.
Letters brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn.
Hey, welcome to Letters. Now, do you face tweet or tweetbook or whatever you want to call it? Well, we do. So please follow us on Twitter at Motors and like our Facebook page at Motors TV for all the latest news and behind the scenes photos from the crew. Now, let's get to some letters. Now, our first letter comes from Lewis, and he writes in and says, I've got a 1999 Mercury Mountaineer with a 5.0 liter motor that might have a vacuum leak. What is the procedure for finding a hard-to-find vacuum leak? Well, hey, Lewis, vacuum leaks can be found by spraying carburetor cleaner around suspected areas like vacuum hoses, tees, valves, and such. Now, if this changes idle speed, you've found the leak. Check obvious things like vacuum hoses and your idle air control solenoid. Now, you can also use a hose and your ear to detect leaks because you can hear it sucking in the air. Now, our next letter comes from Ricky. He writes in and says, Hey, Chris, love your show. What can you do to a cracked head on a 350? Well, hey, Ricky, cast iron heads can be fairly inexpensive, and welding a cracked head, while it's possible if it's iron, isn't really advisable. Now, our final letter comes from Chad. He writes in and says, What is the best way of improving performance and fuel economy without affecting my warranty on a 2014 Dodge Ram 1500 with a 5.7 liter Hemi? Well, Chad, you should first check with your Dodge dealer before making any modifications if you're concerned about your warranty issues. A cold air intake kit with a good dual exhaust system are the best places to begin, but you should keep your old parts if you're concerned with warranty issues. Now, I'd like to thank Chad, Ricky, and Lewis for sending in your letters. You guys get new E3 Spark Plugs for your ride. Now, to learn how to send in your letter, visit our website and click on the Letters button right on our homepage. And to learn more about E3 Spark Plugs and their Diamond Fire technology, or to find out if they're available for your ride, visit e3sparkplugs.com. Well, with the lift plus new wheels and tires, our new Jeep Wrangler is off to a great start here at Motors, but we're just getting started. We've got many more Jeep episodes coming up covering the interior, the exterior, and performance improvements, including a ProCharger Supercharger. Now just remember that after you lift your vehicle, no matter what you've got, you need to get a wheel alignment and retorque all those bolts after about 500 miles. Now for more information on all the products we installed in this episode, including Metal Cloak, Method race wheels, and Atturo tires, or to watch more episodes of Motors, just head on over to our website. I'll catch you next time on Motors.